We are back to training. So I completed the Great Pyramid race yesterday. Smashed the time that I was targeting. So my time that I was hoping for was 2 hours, 30 minutes. And hello, moo-moos. But I ended up getting 2 hours and 6 minutes. I think the final placement was, I think I got 34th out of 150 runners. So pretty pumped with that, honestly. It was a really good race. Feel good. A couple of little things. A little bit of Achilles tendon pain on my right side. A little bit of calf tightness on that right side as well. A little bit of knee pain on the left side. But I'm doing a long recovery run today, 20 Ks. Going slow. I'm not here to set any records. Just want to get those Ks up in preparation for the 60K Ultra in a couple of weeks' time. Now, I wanted to record this video, although a bouncy one, about how I kind of prepared for this particular race, my kind of learnings along the way. I did observe a lot of people who were running that race who I think it must have been their first time, because they didn't necessarily pace themselves properly. They didn't set themselves up for success. And although I'm an amateur, I basically started running 12 weeks ago. I started proper training for that race 9 weeks ago. And it was the first race that I've done. Hopefully I want to give some amateur insights that can help other people who are getting started, get started the right way, and hopefully have some success and achieve their goals as well. So let's kind of run through it. So the race started, I was kind of middle of the pack. My game plan for the whole race was pace a 5-minute kilometre, pace for from the starting point, the 3Ks to the base of the pyramid. That was a good pace for me, and I felt that would kind of set me up to then ascend the mountain quickly. I know my pace I set on the mountain. I know the trails well, so I knew that I was going to pick up some steam. And I was in the middle of the pack. I ended up in kind of like the back quarter of the pack, because people went out too hard. Sure, there was like proper athletes who were kind of doing 3-minute kilometers, but the vast majority of people paced themselves far too quickly at the beginning. They got caught up in it and they kind of burnt themselves out before they hit the mountain. So once we hit the mountain, essentially most people were walking, okay? And because it's a kind of a goat trail, you've got to pick your mark if you're going to be overtaking. You've got to work out where you exert yourself, because obviously in order to overtake, you've got to go faster. And that's basically what my strategy was. I knew for the ascent that I was basically going to be at max heart rate pretty much the majority of the time. So the majority of the ascent, I was like 170, 175. At some parts I dropped down to 165. But basically I knew that that's where my heart rate was going to be. So I just needed to find that muscular endurance and not hit that kind of lactate threshold too quickly or for too long, as I was kind of overtaking people. And like as soon as we started ascending up to that 1 kilometre mark, you see people fade. A couple of guys quit, turned around. Vast majority of people slowed down. And then I kind of found my way back up to like halfway through the pack as I was just chopping people as I was going up. I think that comes down to the fact that I trained the mountain. The vast majority of people, it seemed, didn't. They'd never been there before. So they didn't know the trail. They didn't know what to expect. They didn't have the experience. So that was kind of my edge. I've gone up there like 7-8 times. I've done it twice in one day. That kind of training on the mountain made all of the difference. Now, the most frustrating part as you were getting to the top, because obviously there's the superstars who crushed it. The guy who won the race did it in 1 hour and 20 something minutes. He was flying. I honestly think that's now the record. I think the record before that was 1:30. He crushed it. And the challenging part is as that kind of first third of the pack gets to the top, turns around, comes back down, you then need to give right of way. So essentially, as you're ascending and you get to that kind of last stretch, knowing your strategy around peeling off to the side as runners come back is also a great opportunity to capture time, right? So I saw a lot of people just not necessarily thinking about their giveaway strategy. And for me, as I'd see people peel off, I'd use it as an opportunity to gain ground, then peel off to the side and kind of get a better position and continue to progress. Now, the ascent is obviously challenging. It's about kind of keeping that pace, realizing you're going to be at max heart rate for 45 minutes and getting comfortable doing that. My preparation for that was tire pulls, hill repeats, and essentially a lot of them. If you can, get onto the mountain as often as you can. I was running it once a week. So I did, over the course of the kind of 9 weeks of training, I did 7 single ascents, I think. And I did the full race twice. I did the full race, I think, at about the 3-week mark of my training. I think I got 2:47 for the full race, 97 minutes to the top. Second time I did it, I did the full race in 2:37 and 77 minutes to the top. And obviously race day, I did the full thing in 2 hours and 6 minutes, and it was 70 minutes to the top. So the idea of that is that obviously there's nothing like training on the course. If you can't, you need to find as much kind of hill training as you possibly can, and do as many hill repeats in a row as possible. Like it's equivalent of basically running a hill for 45 minutes. It's just, there's very little that compares to it. So if you can, if you're a local, get up on that mountain, do it frequently. The hard work's done there. Oh yes, and also there was one occasion where I did it twice back to back, and there was also a period of about 3 or 4 weeks where I also ran it with a weight vest. Started with 5 kilos, then went to 10 kilos. I weigh 57 kilos dripping wet, so that was very challenging, but it got that muscle endurance. It got me comfortable in those high heart rate zones. It made all of the difference, and it just allowed me to focus on strategy and execution, speeding up my run to and from, because that was my weak point, and my strongest point was coming down the mountain quick and knowing the right routes to take, knowing what speed, and obviously foot placement, not second guessing myself, because we saw a few people take a tumble. So let's talk a little bit about that. So you get to the top, you turn around, start making your way back down. It was wet, it was really wet. It had been raining torrentially the last couple of days before. It wasn't raining on the mountain, like sprinkling a little bit, but everything was wet. Now, foot placement strategy is really important, and obviously shoes are important. I was running in Asics Kianos, which are a road running shoe. They don't have a lot of grip. I don't think that matters as much as your foot placement strategy. And this might sound a little bit counterintuitive, but the granite rocks, particularly the ones that are flat and that don't have a foothold, are the slipperiest. And your best traction usually comes from piles of leaves and kind of dirt areas. So I saw so many people, particularly on the descent, going quickly, rushing themselves, putting foot placement on granite, and essentially going arse over tits, sliding down the mountain and axing themselves. It's so easy to do. I did it when I was doing the the twice ascension day, and you feel like it's a good foot placement, and then all of a sudden you just slip out from underneath you as if you're on ice, and you fell. So just not nice. So the most important part is on the descent, finding footholds, rocks that you can step on, obviously making the judgment call that it is secure. I think that's obviously an added advantage that I've got because I am lighter, so I can probably take more risks with my foot placements than somebody who is heavier, because of not having to worry about that rock or boulder shifting. But I'm trying to take as many small steps as I possibly can in order to speed my descent down that mountain. And if there's any kind of my strategy in terms of risk management of that is, if there's a foothold, I'm going to put my foot in it. If there's something that is kind of smooth rock surface, I'm going to avoid it. And if I have a choice between something, it is foothold, kind of dirt and leaves, and as a last resort, a kind of a smooth rock. Try and avoid them altogether. Much like climbing, wherever possible, trying to maintain at least 2 points of contact. So I'm grabbing a branch, I'm putting my hand down to clasp a boulder next to me. I have 2 feet planted, even if just for a moment, and I'm basically scrambling with as short steps as I possibly can to make that descent. Now, there are probably about 4 or 5 places through the course that have like granite rock faces, right? They're super slippery, and on the ascent, the aim of the game is to tackle the corner to the side, because the side has essentially an accumulation of dirt and leaves, giving you traction in order to kind of make your ascent. And that happens around the right side of the course. However, on your way down, the aim is to slide. Now, this is obviously an advantage when it is wet. When it's dry, you obviously don't have as much slipperiness, but I essentially crouch down with my kind of feet kind of spread out, my hands to the side, and essentially I slid down on the soles of my feet as if I was kind of like riding a toboggan down the sheer rock face. Passed so many people, recaptured so much time, because for the alternative is to kind of go the way you came around the sides, and it takes you 3 or 4 times longer than if you slid down. Obviously, there's some risks, because you are essentially out of control. The aim of the game is just use your hands to try and slow your descent, and I personally believe it's the best strategy for those parts of the course. So get to the bottom. Yes, next part. Coming down, your biggest risk to your speed of descent is, of course, that foot placement, particularly when it's wet, and having that risk mitigation strategy that I've already covered. The next part is on the straights, let's call them, the parts of the course where you can actually run. It's flat, however, there are lots of roots and there's overgrowth on both sides. So it's not usually clear exactly where there's things that you can trip. Now, I've nearly eaten it on so many occasions, and it's typically because of my transition from the short steps as I'm coming down those very rocky areas, and I'm trying to keep as little foot clearance as possible because I'm not concerned about tripping in those areas. But then when I get to the straights, I don't transition my running strategy. Not getting my feet up high enough, and therefore I end up catching my toe on roots and then obviously tripping forwards. I haven't necessarily seen anybody stack it in that particular area. Most people trip and you just go, oh fuck, and you scramble and you recover. However, it's a risk. So the aim of the game is when you're there, knees up or heels back, whatever your particular running style is, be really mindful of noting where those roots are. If there's overgrowth, just assume that there's tripping hazards and kind of proceed accordingly. Those are kind of my main tips for coming down. Now, your last stretch, my aim was to get as close to 5-minute kilometers as possible on the way back as well. I think I averaged about 5:30 because there's a pretty significant uphill component. You're pretty knackered. I was battling a stitch for the vast majority of the race. I've never struggled with stitches before. I was hydrated. I was taking Cliff gummy blocks the whole time. First half of the race was non-caffeinated. Second half of the race was caffeinated. I couldn't put my finger on what, aside from the conditions of the stress and anxiety of the race, was anything different to what I'd done previously. In any case, that stitch did definitely impact my speed on the run back. But I think it's just a matter of keeping that mindset strong, choosing a pace that is going to kind of suit you, and then have that intention for the last kind of 100 meters or so to pick that pace up and finish strong, which is what I ended up doing. So I did about a 5:30 pace for the last 3Ks. I saw a few people get to like the last hill and they just start walking. You're so close, like just keep moving, keep breathing, and you're basically almost there. I think that's a mindset game, honestly. And then on that last 100 meters, there was a bloke who kind of overtook me earlier in the race, and I managed to clip him, and I beat him for a fraction of a second. So it was there's a video of me just sprinting like a mong chop to the finish line because I was knackered. There was no form there. Arms are flailing, legs are flailing. I'm just giving it everything that I had, but it was fine. Now, I managed to stay basically injury-free, obviously with a few little twinges. I've been running and talking to this for 18 minutes. My heart rate's 121. I'm 2.26k in. I'm averaging 8.42. This is not a hard pace. So this is very much just a long recovery run. So that was basically my strategy for the pyramid. To give you guys some context, May, I ran 18Ks. June, I ran 125Ks, I think it was. And July, I ran 157Ks, or something along those lines. In August, I'm planning to ramp that up to 200K. Obviously, mainly in preparation for this more long distance stuff. My goal for this ultra, the Coranda to Port Douglas, is I want to do an average of 7-minute kilometers for the 60K. It's a very different race. It's pretty much all downhill. Coranda up on the mountain, basically all the way downhill to Port Douglas. So I don't need to worry about the altitude or the ascent as such. I just need to worry about the distance. Never run that far. The longest I've run is 20K. So I'm basically ramping up this week. Plan is 70K this week. Then next week, I'll see if I can get 50 or 60, and then I'll taper and make sure that I'm in kind of good shape, good physical fitness, to be able to get the job done. So I think out of all of this, guys, if you guys have been following my journey for a while, I went from a position of saying that I can't run, and as a kid, could never run, would get just so phlegmy and gassed and feel so horrible that I'm like, this isn't for me. So I wasn't taught how to run properly. And I basically had that belief my entire adult life. Since doing this, it's taught me a number of things. First thing it's taught me is that it's taught me that he who said he can and he who said he can't are both right. It's a reminder. It's something I talk about a lot in business. There's never been a situation in business where I've encountered something that I couldn't do when I put my mind to it. And there've been times that I had told myself this narrative that I couldn't do something, and that became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Running is exactly the same thing. It's not that hard. You just need to have the right strategy, which comes from the right education. I've got a phenomenal mentor and friend in Glenn Dobson, who gave me a plan to follow. When I started, I was running 10k a week, and we basically ramped that up and very, very quickly built a solid base. And essentially from there, it's just been about showing up and doing the reps. Next part is, as you're building that base, run slow. Zone 2, get a fitness watch. I've got a Apple Watch Ultra. You could use any fitness watch. Understand your running zones, and the vast majority of your time running, 70% plus, should be spent in that zone 2 running. So for me, it's like heart rate below 140. It's slow, and it's just about gathering the Ks and being consistent in that training, running 5-6 days a week. And I started off 30 minutes. It was 30 minutes. I ran 3k. I'd come back. Then next week, add 20%, keep adding 20%, and do that for your kind of first 3 or 4 weeks. So you're not shocking your system. The reality is, when you first start, you're not going to run very fast. It doesn't matter. It's not about speed. It seems counterintuitive, but building this kind of your aerobic base comes from these really simple, in some ways boring, zone 2 runs. Everyone who talks about running talks about this, and the vast majority of people who fail, myself included, is because you are going too hard and you do not have the aerobic base in order to support it. So 3 or 4 weeks of 30 minutes, 5-6 times a week, build that base, get those Ks up, and then start adding 20% each week. Then once you've got that aerobic base, you've got that foundation, it's about building the muscle and basically creating that endurance, because that's your next point of weakness. I found myself, as I was adding distance, I had the cardiovascular fitness, the aerobic fitness, but my knees were aching, ankles were aching, lower back was aching, hips were aching, because essentially my muscles were not strong enough to support the distance that I was trying to push it to. And then as certain muscle groups that were fatiguing were losing efficiency, my other parts of my body were compensating, and obviously I was feeling the impacts of that. So that's why I started integrating tire pulls, hill repeats, hill sprints, and also some functional fitness, kettlebell training, this kind of stuff. There's a really good app that I've been using called Fitify, F-I-T-I-F-Y, Fitify, yeah, something like that. And it basically 30-minute workouts, get some kettlebells, and do that 3-4 times a week to supplement your running, and it just makes the world of difference. Next part, get used to running on sore legs. Your body's going to tell you that you can't fucking run, you're done, your legs feel like jelly. Come up with all of these excuses that get in the way of you doing the work. Fuck that little voice. Still, every time I think about going out for a run, I had that little voice. But I've now got 3 months basically of proving that I can push on in spite of that little voice. And it's just now, at the beginning, it was a scream. It's like, don't go. No one's going to know. It's fine. Go tomorrow. So now it's a whisper that it's still there. I don't think it'll ever go away. But I am building the habit of follow through, where when I made a promise to myself, I keep it. And that little voice in my head is a defense mechanism to keep me in my comfort zone. That's not where goals are achieved. That's not where growth comes from. And just realize it's always going to be there. You need to develop the ability to rationalize that little voice in your head. So I say, yeah, no worries, I get it. I'm just going to go for a run to the end of the street. Or I'm going to go for a walk today. And I'm just going to go put my running shoes on and go outside. And that's often the hardest part, getting that initial momentum. And once you're out there, you end up fucking doing it. It's just, how do you create that initial momentum and that little voice goes away? Sure, it does creep up when you're out there where you're like, I said I'm going to run 20k today. Maybe I just get to the 10k mark and turn around. So that's the next thing that you've got to develop. But test that skill set. That is going to permeate through so many different other areas of your life. This is where most people fail. They do not have control over the little voices in their head that hold them back from greatness. And when you master that skill, there's very little in this world that you cannot do, because you have the follow through. You have the ability to execute, and you can trust on that ability when push comes to shove. Set goals, ambitious goals, right? If it wasn't for this pyramid race, I would have never had a milestone to get myself accountable to going out there, right? Because that date is coming quick. I had 9 weeks once I finally decided that I was going to do it, to get into shape. My initial goal was finish it, and my stretch goal was do it in 2 minutes 30, and sorry, 2 hours 30 minutes. And as I said, I fucking crushed that. 2 hours 6 minutes, 34th place, my first time, 9 weeks training. And I don't tell you that to brag. This is little old me we're talking about here. I'm not an athlete. I'm not naturally gifted. This stuff doesn't come naturally to me. It is all of the things that I've said in this video that have allowed me to earn those results. And with no special gifts, nothing was handed to me. This has all been earned, and it hasn't been that hard, okay? And then of course I've got the 60k ultra, which is the big fucking test. Still scares me, but I know that because I've proven I can do the pyramid race, I'm 100% confident that I'm going to be able to do the ultra as well, and I'm confident that I'm going to do well. My goal, once again, is to finish it in the allotted time, and my stretch goal is to do it in 8 hours. And if I can do that, I'm going to be really, really proud. So this video has probably gone longer than I was expecting. I'm already 30 minutes into my run, almost 4Ks. And the point here is you need to have something outside of your business that allows you to test the limits of your ability, that provides you a different modality of expressing yourself, of regulating yourself, of growing yourself, of testing and honing the quality of your mindset and your ability to persevere through tough shit. It's the reason why I'm a martial artist, because it's very, very similar, very fucking hard, requires a lot of discipline, and takes a very long time to get good. You want to quit every fucking time, and when you win, the feeling is amazing. It's phenomenal. Same thing with running. It's in the same boat. Particularly this long distance endurance stuff. It forces you to be on your own with your thoughts, to process shit that you may not have given yourself the time and space to process and think on. It provides you with this foundational resilience, strength, and there are so many similarities of skills that are transferable to martial arts and to business and wealth creation. So here's what I want you to do. If you've got this far, you're obviously interested in my perspective, even though this has been bouncing and you might even have vertigo watching this video. Maybe you've been watching it with your eyes shut. I want you to look down. Look at that fucking waistline, okay? Are you happy with how you look? Are you happy with how you feel, both physically and mentally? Do you feel that you are looking after your temple and that you are doing everything that you possibly can in life and business to reach your fullest potential? And if the answer to that isn't a resounding yes, you gotta do something different. Get the fuck out there. Go do some work. Set a goal. Book a race. Book a competition. Train like fucking hell for it. And see what you're made of. If you need any help, you got any questions, once again, I'm an amateur here. I don't profess to be a professional by any means, but happy to share with you what I've learnt and connect you with some cool people who might be able to assist. Wish you all the best. Let's finish this 20K.